So where is Yashimoto? Actually, what's his real name? Yashimito Gold. Well, a locksmith, Filipino, anyway, his name was Lopez, actually found one of the treasure troves of this Japanese leader's ill-gotten money in the form of gold, jewelry, well, gems, actually. Through dedication, this man, a locksmith, found one of the treasures, and it was worth 43 point something billion dollars. Now, of course, during the regime of President Marcos, it was found out, and he needed to retrieve these valuable statues of gold, gems, massive gold, which was melted down into blocks of gold so that the source of the gold was untraceable. So they melted it into blocks, bars of gold, big bars of gold. Treasure, it's like one of the biggest treasures in the world. And a locksmith found it. Now, he was tortured and tortured. They didn't want him to basically get away with this gold. Anyway, during that time, the the president, and his wife went in exile to Hawaii after the citizens of the Philippines revolted against the greed of the president. Imelda was said to have like 2,000 pairs of shoes. She liked to dress very well. A lot of his wealth was ill-gotten. A tremendous amount of his wealth was actually ill-gotten. Now, the strange thing about this story is Lopez, who was the founder of that gold, after hard work, great disappointments, and then great jubilation, when he found it and had it all taken away from him, Marcos needed to have his hands on that wealth. He was bound to be rich, loved money, and did everything he could to get his riches to live the lifestyle that he wanted. So the money, well, the gold actually was taken away from Lopez. Now, after there was a revolution in the Philippines at the time against the then President Marcos, they exiled themselves in Hawaii at the time. Then what happened was Lopez sued the Marcos family and won. But the tragedy is that Lopez did not get to see his riches the night of the court. He had died. I think he died of TB, tuberculosis. It was a sad story for him, although it was a wonderful victory. He was tortured. Actually, one of his eyes he could not see anymore. Burned with cigarettes, electrocuted with electric battery. Horrible thing. There are still treasure hunters today from America and other places that are still hunting. They found caves to the back of a waterfall. They found remnants of structures in a cave, and that was full of support beams, showing that there was actually these caves where a lot of the treasures possibly could have been. They came into a lot of problems with that in finding the treasure. Still looking now. They found remnants, even some coins, and brought them very close. And they're still on expeditions to this day, I guess, from what I'm understanding. But the big question is, okay, Lopez died, but then they had basically reneged on the case or something. So the question is to me, which I still, in my research, hasn't figured it out. It was worth about, what did I say, $141 billion worth of gold and treasure. Where is it now? That's where I have to do more of my research if I care to even research. I found I was watching this show because I wanted to know the history of Yamashitas Gold. Yamashiro, Yamashito, whatever. It's all the same to me. It's Yamashita, actually, so to correct that, be historically correct. Where is all that now? Now, supposedly, this money, the holdings from the Marcos family, is supposed to be distributed to farmers, to victims of the families of the World War II war, and onward from there. Victims of violence and farmers, and I know the Treasury took a bunch of money from this, and I don't know where else everything went. Now, you're talking in total when we say 141 billion. I'm not correct on it. Might be 171 billion. If that was to be distributed to the farmers for cocoa nuts and cocoa and everything else, then why are we not hearing anything about it? That kind of riches, to spread that kind of wealth to the Filipino people where it's supposed to go, well, I don't hear anything more about this, unless that somebody out there knows something I don't, but it's a really good topic. Where's all that money now? Now, the president is now Marcos, okay, and what does he know? I don't know. That was his father who was president. Now he's president of the Philippines. My understanding years ago was that a lot of holdings were in a Switzerland bank. Now they're not as strict now with the Swiss banks. Now you have to go through total identification, who you are, the funds and where they came from and so forth. They kind of came a long way with that. I don't know the whole history of that, but the Swiss banks were everybody, and the Cayman Islands too. They used to put their money in the Cayman Islands. The rules have changed, I guess, now. There is some transparency as to who has accounts there, to my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong. I know somebody out there will. That money was supposed to be distributed to the Philippines people. So what happened to that money? So, I'm not really a history buff, but I like to learn a little about history. And I'm still reading on this and trying to figure out, because I'm confused. If I'm confused, I'm sure the Filipino people are confused too. Where's all these riches? There was enough money to, basically get people out of poverty. I don't know if you realize what 141 or 171 billion dollars, what it breaks down to, really. What you can do with that kind of money, you could build housing projects for the homeless everywhere in the Philippines. No Filipino would be homeless. It could be food programs that could sustain people for years. Okay, tax-free loans to allow Filipinos to buy homes. There's so many options, but 171, that may not be the right figure, dollars worth of money that could and should have been distributed. But has it? I know the National Treasury took it. There was supposed to be programs for different types of farmers. They call it the agrarian industry, I think it's called, if that's a correct word. I don't hear anything of it. Now, I'm just a foreigner. I don't know a whole lot about the history here. I'm learning. But that's a lot of money. But that could take a lot of Filipinos out of poverty. And I guess I'm just confused. I guess I'm going to have to read up more on this. It's hard to find more information. I'm going to try to learn just a little bit more. But it seems to me that the ill-gotten money from the presidency at that time was made public. And to this modern day, the last thing I ever heard was that this money from Swiss accounts was supposed to be distributed to the people of the Philippines. Now, some of you might be some history buffs out there, and you might want to talk about this a little bit more. Or you may want to add something in the comment section if it's available on my show, or even do a show about it yourself, because I'm certainly willing to learn more about this. It's a fascinating history, actually. Now, Yamashitas Gold was not, in treasures, was not just put in one place. Yamashita, during that time, wanted to hide all this treasures for when they figured they'd win the war, but that didn't happen. And then to go back to that treasures. Now, it is said that his treasures, gold and whatnot, precious stones and so forth, were hidden in numerous places. Baguio is actually one of them, actually. Now, again, where is all the money from this treasure and the ill-gotten money that this administration at the time had? How has it really been distributed? I was reading on that. It was very unclear. Again, farmers, other types of victims. You would think that would be a really big thing out here. Maybe it was. Maybe it's something I'm just not reading. But sure was an interesting show. There's several shows. It got Yamashita, the Tiger's Treasure. There's a number of shows on some modern-day explorers that have been searching for that treasure. But then something comes to mind, too. For those people that are foreigners, if they found the treasure, how much of that could they keep? Because, in actuality, a lot of it would probably go to the government. I don't think somebody would actually be able to keep all of that. At least I'm not thinking the way that works. I know that if you find treasure in another country and you're a foreigner, a sunken ship or whatever, historical stuff, it has to be turned over to that country. That they'll probably allow you to have something, some financial remuneration on that. But I think this is an ongoing story here. A lot of people from all over the world came to the Philippines to find that gold. It took a locksmith, Lopez, to find one of the treasures, and what a big treasure it was just when he's about to give up. What a sad ending story to Mr. Lopez, because Mr. Lopez died on the night of the court hearing, and a convenient way for his family or whoever he had left, because his wife had left him. He lost everything in his life because he took all his money from every source he could possibly get to finance workers to help him dig around for this treasure. They were all gone. He decided he wasn't going to give up. He went in on his own, and he found it beyond belief, a treasure beyond belief. He was ecstatic. He was euphoric, as anybody would be. But you know, he took it to where he lived, which was kind of a shanty. Next thing you know, soldiers were at his door. They took him, they took the golden statue, kind of a Buddha type of statue, I think. Not a real Buddha, but it was a statue made of gold. But what he discovered inside that statue, because the statue looked, something was not right about it. So he was able to pull off the head of that statue, and in it was diamonds. On top of all the gold he found, gems beyond belief. Soldiers came in because Marcos was sold on this. He had to have it. He did. He took it. And he had to sign a paper forcibly and told them where the hidden treasure was, which the Marcos regime gladly took. It's an amazing story. Only to have him eventually sue the Marcos. This was after they exiled themselves to Hawaii. Wins the case and dies on the night of the court hearing. Amazing story. Anyway, if I find out more about this, we might continue the story. But Yamashita Gold is not folklore. It's real. Now, I never really had the knowledge that some guy named Lopez actually found that treasure. What happened? This is new to me. I've always known about the Yamashita treasure, but I've never really thought that anybody ever found anything. I didn't have that knowledge until I watched this History Channel. I'm glad I did, because now it gives me a little bit more knowledge of what happened. Now, there are other sites that Yamashita has stored treasures, and nobody's found that yet. But a very determined locksmith, Lopez, found one of the greatest treasures. And that was just one site. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting. I wish I could be more eloquent as I explain this story, but I'm still kind of a little bit, I'm really not too learned on where this treasure went, and the so-called distribution of the Marcos regime, his ill-gotten money, treasures, the gold, everything. If Lopez was awarded this, and he died that night, I think of TB, the question was, where did the money go afterwards? There was supposed to have been a distribution, but I haven't heard anything about this distribution. I would think there'd be a lot of rich farmers out here, and the people would have benefited. That's enough money to take care of just about everybody in every part of the Philippines in some form or way. But anyway, I'm willing to learn more. If anybody wants to share their knowledge of something I haven't heard on this, please do so. I want to hear from you. Amazing stories. Amazing stories. And this is one of the most amazing stories I've ever heard.